Alright, so we're almost done with the materials of our scene. Let's focus our attention on the second strategy to create a lit object in V-Ray. So I'm going to open the material editor and I'm going to create a simple new V-Ray material. And I'm just going to rename it. There you go. I don't have to focus my attention on any of these parameters. I just have to scroll down and find self-illumination. In here, I'm going to choose the color, which is going to be a warm color, of course. Something like that. Very warm. Kind of yellow. And then we're going to increase the multiplier. I'm going to try 50. And there you go. Now all you have to do is apply this to every geometry that should look like a light bulb. So I'm going to select all three of this, apply this, and we're going to do a quick test render to see how this looks. Alright, so there you have it. It looks like this light bulb is lit, and it looks like this IES light that we created is coming from this light bulb. This is a very good strategy when you need to create the lights and you don't want to be worrying about the geometry. Now, pay attention to one thing though. This light will influence the geometry around it just a little bit. So, if you have a lighting issue, you need to create the actual V-Ray light outside the geometry. Because if you depend on this to create your whole lighting, it's not going to look good. Okay? So I'm just going to do this with all the other geometries. So I'm just going to fast forward. There you go. We have all the lit materials with the proper objects right now. And we're ready to focus our attention on this geometry here because we're going to create a stone wall on this area here. So there are two ways we can do displacement on V-Ray. We can do the displacement on the material, or we can do the displacement as a modifier. And we're actually going to do both. For this wall, we're going to use the modifier. So I'm going to scroll down on the modifier list and find V-Ray displacement modifier. In here, I'm going to add a texture, which is going to be a bitmap, and it's going to be this brick texture here. And one thing you need to notice is this modifier is very good, so you won't tear these edges apart when the displacement happens. And one way for you to make sure that this doesn't happen is for you to scroll down and check the keep continuity option on, and if it still happens, just lower the edge threshold until it doesn't tear apart anymore. Okay? So we've got this done. We've got an edge length of 2 pixels. Let's try 3. And let's just test render as it is. Alright, so as you can see, we have our displacement going on here. It looks good. I'm going to increase the intensity just a little bit more, and then we're ready to create the material. So I'm going to increase this edge length to 5. And I'm actually going to zoom in here and test render again. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this result, and I'm ready to create the material for this. So I'm going to open the material editor, and again I'm going to create a V-Ray material, rename this, then I'm going to add a diffuse map, and I'm going to add a bump map just so we can have more detail, but I'm going to use the same texture that I used here. So I'm going to click and drag as an instance, and I'm going to drag this to the bump map. This way, any changes I do here, the texture will follow on the displacement. So let's go ahead and try to do some things. I'm going to increase this bump quite a bit. Let's try 50%. And let's apply this to the object and see how it looks. Okay, looks great. We just need to increase this tiling. The good thing is we only have to change the tiling twice because we linked the displacement with the bump of the material. So I'm going to open this up. Let's increase this to 3 by 3 and test it out. So let's change this here as well and test render. Okay, 3 by 3 is a little bit too much. Let's try 2 by 2 and do one last test render just to make sure everything looks perfect. Okay, looks perfect. Now, in our next clip, we're going to focus our attention on the grass of our scene. So I'll see you guys then.